My writing that I've heard, not that I've heard a lot, but is that this is a gateway, and that cannabis is a gateway to harder drugs. But I think I heard you say that actually it's an exit strategy from harder addictions and more difficult drugs. Could you just elaborate on that a bit?
That's correct. No one on this committee would dare say that cannabis is completely without harms, so to be clear. But the level of certainly dependence on cannabis and the severity of that dependence is limited to about 9% of the population that use it on a regular basis, and the severity is much less than you would see in terms of dependence levels with tobacco, alcohol, or otherwise. More and more research is starting to suggest that not only is it not a gateway drug, that's been disproven over the last 20 years, it's not a stepping stone drug, but that for many it can be an exit drug to problematic substance use. In some cases, it's very conscious. We have doctors prescribing cannabis deliberately for the treatment of chronic pain to deliberately reduce the use of opioids by patients. But in other cases, it's completely subconscious, like we're seeing in Colorado right now, the only state in the U.S. where you didn't see an increase in beer consumption last year because of legalization efforts. So it happens at the population level. And just to clarify, because I heard earlier some information, I just want to clarify. In Colorado, there is research suggesting that youth use has gone down. It's moderate, it's about 12%, but it has gone down. And I also wanted to mention, because you mentioned women increasing the use of cannabis, we are actually seeing women and seniors being the largest group right now coming into the medical cannabis program. And that alone may account for the statistical bump that we're seeing in terms of women using cannabis as well. As you've suggested earlier, we might see initially on legalization a 2 to 4% increase initially that'll flatline once again and go back to regular use. What you'll typically see is that those who are using will continue to use, but right now, the law is not dissuading a lot of use, and that's one of the challenges when we talk about youth right now. The law is not controlling black market distribution to children. If I could add just one more thing, I'm a former high school teacher. I once asked a grade 11 class, what drugs can you access in the next 24 hours? And they listed off LSD, and they listed off mushrooms, and they certainly listed off cannabis. And the two toughest drugs for them to access in a 24-hour period were alcohol and tobacco. Now, I'm not so old that I don't recall ways that we circumvented that, even those regulations. But once you take cannabis out of the black market, once you take a drug out of the black market, you put in age restrictions and ID and take the power of the black market away from distributing that drug, you can really impact rates of use. And so I think that we can expect, actually, those youth rates to actually go down post-legalization, despite the fact that it may seem counterintuitive.